I'm Michael Bain, and welcome to Triggered, brought to you by Midway USA, just about everything for shooting, hunting, and the outdoors. And of course, we're coming to you from Dragon House Studios at the secret hidden bunker in the Rocky Mountains, where it looks like spring out there. I know it's not, but boy, it is beautiful. Today I wanted to talk about this gun from KelTec, a gun I was pretty familiar with, but I'd never really had my hands on one other than to shoot it at like media day. It shot when there was a shot, or borrow someone else's for a few rounds. But I've had this guy for a little bit of time, and I'm really impressed with it. It is an RFB, which is a 308 7.62 Bullpup. Now, you're all familiar with Bullpups, right? We covered them extensively on Gun Stories with Joe Mantegna. We've covered them extensively here. This is my go-to Bullpup, which happens to be a Tavor X95. I had a Tavor SAR, the original Tavor, but this one just simply has much better ergonomics. It was changed a little by Israeli Special Forces. But Bullpups are kind of one of those things that you either love or you hate. There doesn't seem to be a lot of middle ground. The 223 Bullpups have been around for like two forevers. If you go all the way back to the Steyr AUG, which I shot actually in 3-gun. I borrowed a friend's AUG and shot it in 3-gun way back in the 80s. But there's been a number of Bullpup designs. FNs, FS2000. Also the Desert Tech, which has been evolving since, I don't know, 2017, 2016, something like that. And finally, in the last couple of years, we've seen the 308 version of the Tavor 7. And what a lot of people found, which I thought was really interesting, is that going from a 223 Bullpup to a 308 Bullpup turned out to be harder than people thought. In a lot of ways, it mimics how we saw people going from an AR-15 to an AR-10. And they said, okay, we can scale up an AR-15 platform, and it took years to get the bugs worked out of it. So I've seen a similar thing in 308 Bullpups. Right now there are, like I said, a number available. The Desert Tech KM firearms, which I've never handled one, I've never seen one in the wild. People say, have you tried it? I haven't, and I don't know anybody who ever has. Of course, the Tavor, as I said. But this guy is fascinating because, once again, it comes from the unique mind of George Kellgren at KelTec. And what he wanted to do was build essentially a 308 Bullpup, 7.62 Bullpup, that kind of works for everybody. And this is what it came out with. I believe it was announced way back, 2007, 2008, 2017 become available. And now what you see is a different iteration of the gun. One of the things that KelTec is really good at is, as they're manufacturing, they change it. If they want to make it better, they want to make sure this works. They get feedback that maybe this would be better if they did it a different way. But so this is a current generation of the little Bullpup. And let me just give you some points on it. It's 100% ambidextrous. All its operating controls are on either side. And here's what's weird. This is genuinely interesting, I think, is that the empty cases get ejected out the front, which is a kind of a novel idea. One of the problems with Bullpups, of course, is if you have to change sides with it. If it's right ejecting and you have to go to your left shoulder with it, there's a good chance you're going to catch a case in the face, or at the very least, a lot of hot unburned powder. So George designed this gun to eject its cases forward, and you can see the kind of little ramp that they go through to eject forward. And he did that with what amounts to an engineering tour de force. It is 2 extractors. And so the case is fully held by 2 extractors from the time it's picked off from the magazine here in the back until the time it's pushed onto its little ramp and sent forward. It will even eject rounds if you hold it vertically because, again, it's pushing the rounds onto this little ramp. So you've solved the problem of the gas in your face. The other thing that George did that I'm personally glad of having shot a lot of these guns, is obviously the gun is back here. In a bullpup, this is where your action is, back here. And so that is also where your face is. That's what you're going to put your face on, you know, to cheek this gun. It's going to be right there over the action. So what happens if a case blows out? What happens in a cataclysmic failure? Granted, that doesn't happen a lot, but it does happen. Well, what George did is there's 2 layers of steel right here, so that if a case blows out, all that pressure wave and gases are going to be forced down into the magazine well, as opposed to into your face. It's a very thoughtful design, and if you've ever worried about that happening, it's not going to happen with this gun. You can see here, this is the bolt release. Bolts on the left-hand side, it can be on the right-hand side, but God and John Browning wants it on the left-hand side, so you got a bolt release here. Your safety, it's really easy, and if you're used to an AR platform gun, that safety works pretty well. I have no problems with it at all. The interesting thing about bullpups, and one of the reasons I like them, I went a long time not liking them, but they balance funny. The point of balance on this gun is right at the hand grip, exactly where it should be. It's an 8 and some ounces gun. However, it doesn't feel that way because a lot of that weight is resting on your shoulder. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about this gun, put some rounds down range.
The revolutionary TCM from Rock Island Armory. Fire it once and you'll be hooked. The first thing you'll notice is its sonic boom and enormous muzzle flash as it hurls the exclusive Armscore 22 TCM round downrange at a blistering 2,000 feet per second with penetrating impact. It shoots surprisingly easy with light recoil. The 17-round TCM series, so fun to shoot, it's like a thrill ride, only better.
Okay, welcome back to Triggered. We're talking about the KelTec 308 Bullpup, and a couple of features that I really like on it, I wanted to touch on here. The magazines. It uses, amazingly enough, FAL magazines, FAL magazines, metric FAL magazines. So it's not, you know, it's not using the standard like Accuracy International platform Magpul magazines that almost everybody else uses. That may be a problem to some people. However, it's great for me because I have a case of these. These came on the market about 20 years ago. They're Israeli surplus. They were used out in the war, various and sundry wars out in the desert. They were sold for $4 a piece. So I bought a case. So I actually happen to have a lot of FAL metric magazines, even though I no longer have an FAL. So for me, that's just great. I've got plenty of magazines for it. Magazine release is right here in the back. It's designed so when you free it, your thumb is what works the magazine release in the back. And again, it takes some getting used to. It's like the original Tavor SAR. It's got a little bit of a different manual of arms than you're used to. But on the other hand, it's not particularly complicated. It is a short stroke piston gun. And that means 2 things for you. Number one, it's not going to get as dirty because you're not bleeding hot gas off the barrel, bleeding it back into the action the way an AR would or any direct impingement gun. The other thing is piston guns run cooler, which is always a good thing if you're running a lot of rounds to it in competition or any class, something like that. 18-inch barrel, a regular flash hider. Interesting thing here is you see this threaded portion in front, right in front of the handguard here. This is for future stuff, if you will. It's for, can thread on, I believe there's a company that already makes a set of rails that can thread onto this. You could easily make a suppressor, a longer suppressor that slips on, screws on there. And let's take a look at the other good thing about a piston setup is here. It's adjustable gas. You can adjust the amount of gas in the system there, which is a very, very handy thing because 7.62 ammo is what it is. A lot of us now, because we're out of ammo and a lot of issues there, we're running surplus stuff. I think I've got Argentinian and some Eastern European 7.62. It's dirty and it's old. But you can adjust the gas system to get it to run. Right now this is set up for 168 grain IWI full metal jacket 7.62, and it runs like a top. There's always been a lot of issues with this gun in terms of reliability and running, because people didn't quite get that you need to set the gas system. You need to say, whatever ammo I'm working, I really need to be able to adjust this gas system to work it. And when you get to junky Argentinian surplus, you know, you're going to need all the gas you can to run the gun. As I said, a little over 8 pounds, 8.5 pounds. Most of the modern 308 Bullpups fall within the same range, which is, this is 27.5 inches long. The Tavor is a little shorter, like 26 3/4, and a little heavier, 9 pounds. The Desert Tech, the lightest, but it's like 7 3/4 pounds and 26 like that. They're all going to fall within this range. And from my standpoint, this is an easy gun to shoot. It surprised me. A short 308 is going to kick, right? My go-to 308 has been a Galil Ace, a 7.62 Galil Ace. And as a friend of mine said when I was shooting it in a 3-gun match, I was shooting heavy metal in a 3-gun match, he goes, it's like you're shooting a jackhammer, because, you know, it will recoil. However, I found that in general, the Bullpups feel less felt recoil because of the weight distribution, because again, you got the action back here. And so it balances differently, and that means it runs differently. One more thing I did want to mention on this gun that I find enormously impressive is the trigger. If you think about it, you got your action back here, right? You got your trigger up here. So somewhere there's got to be some sort of weird linkage back here. So when you pull the trigger, then it trips the sear, the back hammer falls, all those things happen. That means that a lot of times the trigger pull sucks. The FN 2000, the trigger is spectacularly awful on that. Tavor got better, got even more betterist if you want to say, when Geisley began making drop-in triggers for it. However, George Kellgren designed this gun for have a pretty good trigger. And it has, by my scale, about a 6-pound pull, maybe a 6.1, something like that. But it's crisp. It doesn't have the super long mush that oftentimes you get with a linkage system in a Bullpup. So I'm going to put a lot more rounds through it because I find it fascinating. I want to love Bullpups. I do like my Tavor X95, which is set up right now as a 9mm. But I'm interested in this guy. The sight that's on it right now, just so you know, it's Israeli. It's a MEPRO M21, which is a battery-less sight. There's no battery in here. During the daylight, it's got fiber optic tubes. It collects it, shows you a little orange dot in a donut. And at night, it has a tritium light in it. So this runs without any batteries. It's an IDF issue light, Israeli Defense Fund issue not light, but sight. And so it's overbuilt. It's kind of like a tank, which is what you sort of see with some of the Israeli stuff. But it works really, really well. I like this gun. I'm always fascinated with George Kellgren's designs. As one thing that George told me years ago, that he wanted to build a gun that if you lost a screw from it, you could buy it at your local hardware store. And so a lot of times people say, well, why does it look like that? Because that's a design philosophy. You can fix it if it breaks. But again, I haven't had any problems with this gun at all. It's run like a top. We'll be shooting it a lot more. It'd be a great pig hunting gun, wouldn't it? Now, through the miracle of television, I'm going to jump back to last week. I did some new products. We were going to show them with last week's show where I was finishing up the 458 SOCOM. But it took me so long to finish the 458 SOCOM, it got pushed to this week. Stay with us. This week's Triggered is brought to you by Midway USA. Just about everything for shooting, hunting, and the outdoors. Taurus USA. Designed to protect. Volquartsen, engineering the world's finest rimfire rifles, pistols, and parts. And Franklin Armory, making some of the most innovative guns in America. Welcome back to Triggered. It's probably no secret that I've been in the market for a new backpack. I've been kind of shopping around because I've done a lot of things outdoors. I've carried a lot of different kinds of backpacks, but I wanted one sort of for everyday carry. And a couple of weeks ago, I got a fortuitous box in the mail. This is from ALPS OutdoorZ, and it's part of their Extreme line. This is their everyday carry pack, and as near as I can tell, it's exactly what I've been looking for. It's got a lot of room, good openings, padded backs, lots of compartments here so that we can keep stuff at least vaguely sorted out. One of the things I like about this backpack, and that I was insistent about for whatever backpack I got, is it's exactly the right size for this bullet safe panel. This is a 3A bulletproof panel. It slips right in here. It will stop pretty much any handgun round, obviously not a rifle round. The reason they call it an everyday carry pack is here in the back, they have special compartments for you to put your gun in. You can use one of those Velcro type holsters. It'll Velcro right in here and carry the gun. It's right side, left side. Suspension system's pretty good. This isn't one of those like super backpacker packs that you're going to be out for days with. It's got a built-in rain jacket in here, a rain cover. So you unzip this, take the rain cover, and it'll cover up the whole pack so it doesn't get wet. Place for your sunglasses, which you really don't want to break, or your shooting glasses. An extra top compartment. I mean, all in all, I couldn't have designed a pack that that had as many features as this one does. I'm familiar with ALPS OutdoorZ because they make my binocular holders. It's a binocular holder and a harness system for carrying binoculars, and it's great. And I've been using it for, I think, 2 years. So I was familiar with the company, and to me, this is really right down exactly what I need. So this is something I'll be carrying with me on the road, and I noticed that, amazingly, it's the perfect room to fit in, I don't know, one of those briefcase backpack guns that we've been talking about so much lately. Check out ALPS OutdoorZ. They do a lot of stuff, a lot of hunting stuff. It's a really good company. Okay, it's about the time of year that new products start coming out from Streamlight. As you know, Streamlight has been a sponsor of Shooting Gallery since the beginning. Not a personal sponsor, but of Shooting Gallery. And I get lots of great products from them because great products is what they do. First thing I wanted to show you is the TLR 6s. These are essentially a light and laser, or just a white light, specifically for really small guns like this SIG 365 frame. In fact, I'm going to put this on my 365 hybrid. I'm just waiting for holsters. This is the first one I got, which I think is from G&G. I wouldn't swear to that. But obviously here you've got a light and you got a laser, or if you choose, you can just have a white light. It's 100 lumen light, but on the other hand, they're designed really to fit well. The thing I like on the SIG is that SIG doesn't have a regular 1913 rail. It's their own proprietary rail, and the TLR 6 is made for that rail. So when I get holsters, I'll have this on it. Another thing from Streamlight that I really like, and it's something a little different, it's their wedge. Not a wedgie, but a wedge. Essentially an everyday carry flashlight that's a little bit more like what you might expect from carrying, say, a knife in your pocket. A little bit easier to carry than the round lights. One of the neat setups on it is it's got this switch here, and the switch, you turn it on and you get 300 lumens for a long time. But if you need a bright light, say you see something and you really want to illuminate it, you can push the wedge switch forward, you got 1,000 lumens. It gets very, very bright. This particular light also, it's a USB charge light, so you just plug it in and charge it up. And again, this is an excellent everyday carry light. I understand why they made it the way they did, and it makes sense. Rifle mounted optics, got a couple of options here. These are the TLR RM1, RM2. It depends on if it's got a laser or if it's just a white light. These are 500 lumen rail mounted lights. Very, very easy to mount, very easy to use. I've used pretty much every iteration of their rifle mounted lights as it's gone through. There's a second version of this, by the way, that's an RM2, and it is 1,000 lumen lights. So that's what we're going to be looking at from Streamlight for the rest of this year, and who knows, they may slip something special in on me. Okay, cool stuff. As I said, Bullpups probably grow on you. All of them, the modern 308 Bullpups, are in that $2,000 range. I have seen this gun discounted down as far as like $1,300, $1,400 against its MSRP of right at like $1,900. Keep in mind that those may be earlier Gen 1 guns. You want to get a current one. All of them fall in that range, a little bit expensive. So I'm Michael Bain. This is Triggered, brought to you by Midway USA. Just about everything for shooting, hunting, and the outdoors. And we will see you next week.